What is up, grinders? Welcome back to another episode of the MMA Crunch Time. We are your hosts, Mike Brown, aka H3 Buddha, and Blender HG Jordan Cooper. Man, you're back for the greatest, a most amazing slate of MMA of all time. I'm gonna make this simple. Play whoever you want. Okay, we're done, Devin. Roll the credits.
What did you do without me last week?
Oh,
Or the week before? It wasn't last week. We had off, right? That there was no
I rolled
card.
it. I think it was a crazy slate itself too. But contextually, it was like middle range. You need to get that right, and I wasn't on the right side, but I was by myself.
Did you just do the show by yourself?
Oh yeah, all by myself. No blender needed. But I don't care if you were on the cruise ship, if you were in the air, wherever you were going to be. We're bringing you here for this slate. Two glaring values. Never contextually seen this on a slate. It's going to be a fun one.
This is the most blender slate there could possibly be.
Ever. Frame it.
Ever, which means I'm probably going to lose 90% of my money. But I mean, that's... Yeah. But what's going to end up happening is some lineup that's duplicated 700 times wins and everyone loses. But this slate, we always look at the contextual variables, the two main contextual variables. I talk about this on the DFS pregame show on Fridays, so always check those out. Those are like the kind of the first look for the MMA slate. And here on Crunch Time, you know, after I built all my lineups, we go through and everything. Two main contextual variables are the number of fights and the spreads of the fights. Okay, so number of fights 13. So this is a mid to larger size card. It's not a 10-fight card. So that means with the more fights there are, the more that you're prioritizing ceiling versus win equity. Okay. And when it's 9 fights, it's like just getting an underdog that wins. That could be optimal. This, a little bit less so. And then the spreads of the fights determine the probability of how much salary is used for the nut lineup, the optimal lineup. On large spread fights where we have multiple minus 500 favorites, usually not many underdogs win. The probability of that happening, especially if them scoring 100 points. So a lot of times those cards, you know, a lineup with one underdog, that's the optimal. 2 underdogs, you're good, right? You had 49-7 lineup, you're good. You know, unlikely that a $47,000 lineup is going to win on a slate like this. This is not that slate. This slate, the biggest, I mean, price-wise, the 9K fighters are minus 210, minus 215, minus 177. Okay? And then everyone in the mid-range, it's like all like 3 to 2s. Kind of close to pick'ems within the realm of, you know, you wouldn't be shocked if the underdog won type of thing. And then on top of that context, we have late replacements this week, not 1, but 2, which have now turned Jamie Malarkey and Jim Miller as the 2 biggest favorites on the slate, and they're priced at 6,700 and 7,100. So in context, if DraftKings repriced this slate, Butler and Nymov would be the same price, 6,600 and 6,500, the late replacements that are making their debuts. I think they're both going up a weight class. I mean, this doesn't bode well for them. If you repriced it, Jamie Malarkey would be like 9,700 on this slate, right? And Miller would be like 9,400 or 9,600, 9,400.
He's 94 on the showdown slate. You're right. Exactly correct.
So Malarkey is almost 3,000 underpriced, and Miller is nearly 2,200 underpriced if we reprice this. So, like, if we priced it like that, you would build a lineup at 50K that had like Malarkey, and then you'd have to pick, like, do you want to play Daniel Pineda? Do you want to play Damon Blackshear or Munoz or something? You'd have to pick an underdog here. Dude, you have Miller and Malarkey priced as those underdogs. Like, but dude, building the cash, if you were to build a cash lineup and use the main event fighter, which is a mid-range fight, 8,200, 8,000, you would leave 700 on the table. So essentially, you'd be playing ALBAZI. If you wanted to stack the main event.
My question is, we'll get this out of the way early, is how many people are going to start with Miller and Malarkey immediately? I mean, is that
both or one of them?
Both. I'm saying the combination of both.
I'd say an overlap of I'd say an overlap is somewhere around 30-something%.
So 30 of the percent of the field is starting their lineups with that.
And this is large field. In smaller field, it may be much higher.
Oh, exactly. I'm talking big GPPs out there.
Right.
Strictly.
Right on my ownership, which includes some aggregates of both our RotoGrinders ownership as well as my own and some others.
Mm-hmm.
I have Malarkey at 59% projected owned and Miller at 45% projected owned. If you overlap that, I'm going to assume that maybe half the lineups are about equal to each other. So, I mean, we're still talking somewhere in the 20-30% range that both fighters. And then once you place both fighters in the lineup, you can't even spend like 50K. You literally can't even spend 50K.
I think there's like one. Honestly, there's one that everybody has shown out there, and there's one obvious lineup that spends 50, but not main event. You'd have
right. If you use a main event fighter in both those guys, like this, it's impossible to spend all your salary. So here's the dynamic: you have to. This is very important, especially if you're playing large field GPP. You have to treat a $49,000 lineup as if it's a $50,000 line. Like in your head, like try to get out of that mental block of like, I'm going to spend as much salary as possible. I'm going to leave money on the table. I'm going to leave 1,000 on the table. Dude, the duplication rate of the 49K lineups is going to be like the duplication rate of the 49.8 lineups. And then here's another thing. I mean, this is Mike. This is why I'm back. It's a blender slate. You have to look at the dynamics of what's if you're going to leave money on the table, which I'm playing 85 lineups, more than half my lineups leave at least 4,000 on the table. Just to put things into perspective. That's not crazy on this slate.
No. Because
look, you take a look at the spreads of the fights. There's no reason why Victor Altamirano can't beat Tim Elliott. I mean, like, we could have a slate where 6-7 underdogs win, and they're not really underdogs. These are all like semi-pick'em levels. So, like, you could easily see Malarkey and Miller winning at underdog prices, and then you just get two more underdogs that put up 90-plus points.
Miller's 40.
The optimal lineup leaves 4,000 on the table.
Jim Miller is 40 years old. I mean, at some point, the regression's going to hit. It's hard to ignore the super late notice, of course. But let me get the housekeeping out of the way. This broadcast brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. If you're in a legal sports betting state, take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions do apply. I don't know if I'm going to take my $2,500 in bonus bets and try it on this card, Blender, because even I don't have any strong leans on this one. I mean, you don't even have grapplers that, outside of Malarkey, right, that will give you a huge floor. I mean, even Tim Elliott, we'll get into the drama Tim Elliott has. He's a historical grappler. I don't think you can trust him. I mean,
you can't trust anyone. You really can't trust anyone this late. But I want to make the point, Mike, to sum up the whole like kind of game theory lineup construction aspect. If you're going, here's the key. If you're going to, there's a big discrepancy in win probability based on salary, depending on who you have in the lineup. Most slates where the pricing is fairly efficient, a $46,000 lineup has nowhere near the win probability of a 49.5 lineup. But on this slate, it does, but it depends on who you put in it. So, for instance, if you want to build lineups that are 49K plus, 49.5 plus, 50,000, you should be building those lineups without Miller and without Malarkey. So, like, if you want to build if you want to build something with using as much of your salary as possible, do it without both of those guys, because now the duplication factor goes dramatically down. And that lineup, because you're still putting in a ton of favorites, has a win probability that's in relation to having Miller or Malarkey in your lineup. But the opposite is true as well. So let's say you're going to leave 4,000 on the table, right? Don't leave 4,000 on the table and not play Malarkey or Miller, right? Don't go. I'm going to play the same line, that Silva, Elliott, Lacerda, whatever type of lineup. And then instead of Malarkey, I'm going to play Naimov, and instead of Miller, I'm going to play Munoz.
But the public is going to be more apt to not play Miller based upon him just being minus 250, his age, the pricing. People are just going to click Malarkey more often than not. So, I mean,
I agree with that, but I mean, Miller's still going to be the second highest owned fighter.
Of course. Oh God, yeah, I know that. You know that, but I couldn't wait to ask you this question. If you're going to go that route and leave that money on the table to be unique, even with the money on the table, is it trying to get leverage against Miller or a leverage against Malarkey? Because they are right there. I mean, look at Malarkey's opponent is $200 less. I mean, you're getting a winner out of a 67 or a 65. And
I think the salary dynamic alone is worth more than the leverage, which is so ridiculous for me to say, because Malarkey, I have it's 59% owned, and Naimov, I have it sub 5% owned. You go, well, if Malarkey loses, I think it's more likely what people, I think, fail to realize when they talk about leverage, and I talk about this in baseball with pitchers. I'm going to stack against Jacob deGrom. It's like, dude, is your team still going to be the highest scoring team on the slate? Like, Jacob deGrom could fail and not be in the optimal baseball lineup, and he just gives up 4 runs. The stack doesn't come in. So you have to think in terms of is if the 3 outcomes of the fight are not, people think of Malarkey wins, Naimov wins. No, how about Malarkey wins competitive decision 29-28 and scores 68 points? Like, that Naimov ain't going to be optimal, right? And then Malarkey probably ain't going to be optimal. And then you also have what happens if Naimov wins a competitive split decision 29-28. Doesn't matter that he's 6,500. There's 13 fights on the slate. Him scoring 62 points, that may not be enough. So I'm much more likely this slate to be inclined to play lineups without Malarkey or without Miller or without both than necessarily playing Butler or Naimov. But if I had to choose between those 2 guys, the late replacements, I prefer Butler to Naimov for 2 reasons. One, Butler is more of a natural grappler, and I know that's Jim Miller's, specialty. But dude, if Jim Miller gets to the second round, it's quite possible that it doesn't matter, that his cardio gives, and Butler just takes him down and lays on him for 2 rounds.
Honestly, there's reverses. People forget about the hidden stats that are in fantasy MMA. There's reverses. There's the little pitter patter that I talk about all the time, Blender, right? You get on top and you just play the bongos a little, boys. That's the hidden thing, is reverses as well. So I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, Butler, if anything, Naimov also is going to slow down the second and third round. I mean, Butler should as well, but
what are your thoughts, Mike, on the main event? Because I think the main event is fadeable.
On any other slate, I'd be fading it. I like, I'm a chalk guy, typically, unless I know I'm going in for a GPP. I would fade it a lot of times, because if this thing goes to a third or fourth round, it's probably killing fantasy for Kai Kara-France, because, ALBAZI will get those takedowns. And then, potentially if it's a competitive striking affair, there's not going to be a ton of volume. I don't think there's not going to be hundreds and hundreds of strikes. It's the problem is when I say that, you and I both know over 5 rounds, they both score, 60 points each, and the winner gets 90 points. I agree. It's fadeable, but the ownership is my big thing. I mean, you got ALBAZI almost double the ownership of Kai Kara-France. It makes sense though, right? Like, ALBAZI, I'm surprised isn't like a little bit higher of a money line. Were you surprised? Because
no, I think truthfully, I think Kara-France should be a bigger favorite.
Really, based upon the striking,
based around just the strength of schedule. Kai Kara-France has fought like the top end of this division, and ALBAZI hasn't. Obviously, the upside because of wrestling is with ALBAZI. I mean, he has a path if he wrestles for 5 rounds to great 120 points. Kai Kara-France's takedown defense is good, and he scrambles well. I mean, Kai Kara-France is not someone that puts up ceilings. Like, it doesn't make me like want to play Kai Kara-France more. It just means that there are paths where ALBAZI scores as much as Kai Kara-France, with Kara-France winning, right? So it's a 5-round decision win for Kara-France. ALBAZI has 66 points, and that's not optimal. Like it's going to be these 48, 47s. It's just that it's one of the, and there's a couple of fights like this that you describe all the time on this show, where it's a striker versus grappler, and the grappler is not really great, or anything, but good enough that he could wipe the points for the other guy in a round. Like I take a look at we take a look at like Gaffarov Dos Santos fight, right? Like
zaps all the goodness for Castaneda, like all of it.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, right. Or what are we
He
looking
could get
at?
zapped.
Oh, yeah. Well, Dos Santos, Nurmagomedov, and then Gaffarov and Castaneda. Yeah, those type of fights where Castaneda wins, but one round he's on his back for 4 minutes. So like when he wins in the third round with the TKO, he still only scores 76 points.
The best example of that on this whole entire slate is probably Gaffarov as well. But I'm saying Pineda. Pineda's a first round fighter, man. He could take you down, control you for the first round. The person's probably more apt to say, okay, just control me, right? Caceres could be like, whatever, I'm adequate at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm going to be okay on the mat, survive, because Pineda's going to go on the second and third. And then it's on, hey, can he get multiple knockdowns to finally get there, Caceres?
That's my favorite fight of the slate, by the way, Mike. I have a lot of both sides.
Pineda cost me a lot of money last time against Tucker Lutz. I don't know if you remember that spot. Everybody was on Tucker Lutz, and Pineda just came out hot, real hot, and just melted him basically, which was impressive. But
you know who we're describing these like grappler types. You know who I'm significantly under on?
It's either Silver or Elliott. It's got to be Elliott.
Well, it's the one that. Can you believe Kevin Kroom was having sex with Gina the night of their wedding?
Look at them, Blender.
Right. But Tim Elliott is Tim Elliott is the type of guy, and I've learned in MMA DFS that it fits the Cheese's Robbie Ray rule in MLB.
Mm-hmm.
You can't trust him, so you high variance. You play him when he's low owned. You fade him when he's high owned.
But he's on this slate, right? He fits in that.
Yeah, but he's going to be too high owned for that. I mean, he's minus 177 at 9,000. He has a plus 400 inside the distance line. Sure, he could wrestle for 3 rounds, but I mean, his fight IQ, he's saying he's going to get a first round finish this fight. Altamirano ain't a chump. Altamirano can wrestle, and he's also very active. Elliott could easily get knocked out here.
Exactly, and Elliott's going to push that pace, hopefully, like he always does. He says, I'm going to do a bunch of crazy shit. He's got a bunch of pent-up frustration because of the potential stuff he's had in his life. It's not even potential. It's stuff that's happened in his real life. So he's saying he's going to be crazy. That puts him at risk for his chin. Like, Altamirano arguably has way more power than he does. But these are the types of fights, if it were a smaller slate, I'd be saying jam it in and then get that leverage with Altamirano. That's the problem. It's like, I don't need Altamirano on this slate. Like,
but it'll be lower owned. If it was a different slate, Altamirano would be like 30+% owned. All these underdogs outside of Miller and Malarkey, who are not underdogs, you're going to get a much lower ownership that you would on any other slate that with these guys. I mean, every other underdog, if we don't count the main event ALBAZI technically I think is a favorite now. All the other underdogs are under 20% owned. That's what I have. I have Miller and Malarkey as 1,000,000% owned, and then everything is 20% minus. You're gonna think I'm crazy. Maybe you're gonna think I'm crazy. No. There's an underdog that has I think sneaky. I hate using that term in DFS. Sneaky upside. Not a very good inside the distance line. It's a fighter that is going to be low owned. And also fighting another fighter that's going to be a favorite that's going to be low owned, and I think there's 90-point upside, and you may think it's nuts that I have 3 times the field of this fighter.
Decision or finish? What are you looking at?
I don't think it matters. I think even in a decision, maybe I could get 90 points.
It could be multiple people. See, here's the thing. I'll answer your question in a minute, because on another slate, I would have thought that Felipe Lins had actual win equity. Okay.
Right.
But it can't be Andrei Arlovski.
No, it's not Andrei
Arlovski.
In the chat, it's not Abubakar Nurmagomedov. No, it's not him either.
It's got to be. So my power deduction says it's Frey or Blackshear.
Well, I think Blackshear is going to be a little over. I mean, he's not going to be very owned. I mean, I prefer Lacerda way more than Blackshear.
Munoz makes sense.
Well, people are going to play Blackshear because he wrestles a lot. I just don't think he's going to have much success against Lacerda.
Sinew Frey's got that wrestling cap on in the singlet. I mean, I'm in.
Well,
if she comes out.
To put things, okay, I know she got knocked out her last fight, right? She's, 38 years old, but she's a smart fighter, right? Elise Reed sucks. The fact that Elise Reed is a favorite here is, I mean, come on, really? I mean, Elise Reed, if this fight just stays standing up, I think it's it's lined that way. Minus 127, Elise Reed. Sinew Frey is a 111. Obviously, it's the fight most likely to go the distance, but Elise Reed is just a distance, throws straight punches. If you don't have any defense, sure, I guess she could do well. And can we trust Frey's chin? No, I think this is a step down in competition for her. And Frey, although in the past has not, wrestled much, if she's up against someone that can't wrestle, can't get up from the mat, which is what Elise Reed can't get up from.
You are nuts, and I love it. I did that even blew my mind. And
you don't think if Frey has good fight IQ that she shoots within 30 seconds of each round, and it's quite possible Elise Reed just never gets up.
She could score 90 in a decision.
Right.
The problem is if she stops the takedowns in one round. So
of course.
We talk about first round equity. We talk about stall equity on this slate. Like, you've got to be perfect.
I mean, are you playing any Elise Reed? I mean, at 8,600? No. I'm playing 85 lineups. I think I have her in 5 lineups, and obviously in very contrarian lineups.
What does the second round finish look like? It probably doesn't even score well. She probably stalled out in the first round. Like, that's how ugly it is. Yeah,
Elise Reed. Maybe she gets a first round. Hello. Dude, we see it all the time, Mike. We see it all the time. A guy is plus 650 inside the distance and then gets a first round knock. Arlovsky could knock out. How about that one? I'm going to be over the field on Dontel Mays. This guy sucks. Okay, I'm telling you, this guy sucks.
He should have volume.
No, I don't think volume. I think that if he's not a smart fighter either, but I mean, if he just says I'm going to wrestle at 8,500, I mean, he's up against a guy that was alive during the Flintstones, like when the cartoon, in the cartoon, what that time period was.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, he does have the greatest meme out there, the GIF, when he's in north-south position using his cup as a weapon. One of the best GIFs. You guys should definitely check that out.
But we all know, I'm going to say I'm playing Mays, but if I debate on anything, 29-28 Arlovsky is that's, I think that's pre-written on the scorecards. I mean, no matter how it plays out, typically that's what happens.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Arlovsky's not somebody you want to get behind either. It's just there's nothing to be had.
Has Arlovsky ever put up anything more than 80 points in 10 years?
I can't imagine. I mean,
I said that about Bobby Green a couple of cards a year ago. And of course he Ionetta or whatever, he knocked him out after not having a knockout in 10 years. So who knows what happens.
2006, 100 points. 2014. Hey, he was doing great in 14, 121 points. But regardless, yeah, we're not talking
was that a 5-round fight?
No, those are first round finishes for Arlovsky. Stefan Struve, though. Do you remember that? The skyscraper? Easy to hit. Yeah, he's the tall guy that was glass chin. About 5 minutes until lock here. Yeah, crazy slate. I know. There's just the fights on the slate are just crazy because I did say the Grisham and Lynn's fight, that would be the sneaky fight on the slate though. No. But pure the heavyweight, light heavyweight division, the division dictated me potentially trying to sniff out something to be had in that spot. But the one fight we did not talk about that's been talked about a couple times in our YouTube chat is the Zaleski dos Santos and Nurmagomedov. That falls into the category of that stall out, right? I mean, one guy could get stalled out, and then boom, even a second and third round could be.
That's if I'm going to play anyone, it's going to be Dos Santos. Even though the line is flipped, I just think Dos Santos has way more finishing equity than Nurmagomedov.
Well, how this works, right? Silva's going to be high owned. She's going to be takedown and then a triangle off the back for Ketlin or something crazy.
Well,
like,
I think that do you really think
it.
that fight should be lined that wide?
Hell no. It's sloppy women's MMA. Karine isn't even the hottest prospect. She kind of she did okay in the first one. She got a great first round finish, but it's like, come on, man. This is not, we're not talking about a powerhouse prospect in Karine Silva. But Santos, like right there, I'm going to take Santos over Silva all day. I just wish I could take Ketlin Souza against Silva and get leverage, but I don't need it on a slate like this.
I mean, I have some Souza lineups. I mean, but she's plus 650 inside the distance. I mean, Karine Silva's plus 100, and salary doesn't matter. I mean, it comes down to sometimes you're building lineups. And of course, I'm using Lineup HQ to build my lineups.
Me too.
That salary doesn't matter. I mean, it's like, well, do I leave 6,000 on the table and play Souza, or do I play Alex Caceres, right? Well, that's $2,000 difference, right? I mean, I'm leaving all the money on the table anyway. So, like, dude, if a $42,000 lineup wins, like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to have those. But I think I'm going to be unique enough. But as I said before, you 3 minutes left. You're building lineups.
Yep. Mentally
in your head, treat a $49,000 lineup as a 50. Like, everything go down 1,000. So, like, if you spend 49,000, go like, oh, I left 1,000. I'm going to be only 3 dupes. No, you have to go down to 48,000 for that type of stuff. So, and if you're going to build anything without Miller and Malarkey, then you're spending more of your salary. And if you're building stuff with Miller and Malarkey, you're spending much less of your salary. Don't get stuck with those 49-5 lineups that have Miller or Malarkey plus ALBAZI plus Silva or Santos. Like, don't get stuck with those. I mean, I'm going to download the slate in 2 or 3 minutes from now and just see. We could see line 1,700 dupes.
Here's my sneaky one: is the Lacerda. He can get you down off of those because people are going to jam in the Silva, Santos, Caceres. Lacerda is really one of the keys, I think, to scoring 110 points off of those guys that are above 9K. I know price doesn't matter. I'm just saying the action in that fight is going to be a fast pace from the get-go. So, a couple body kicks, he drops them, Blackshear pops back up, boom, he gets down again. Like that's a guy that can really open up things in your lineups. Would you agree with that?
He's my highest exposed fighter outside of Malarkey and Miller.
I like it. Makes a lot of sense to me. Less than a minute left here before lock. And just to remind you guys, it is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. If you're in a legal sports betting state, take advantage of their awesome bonus offer. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $2,500 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions do apply. And Blender, for live spots on this slate, you could see a fight, like we talked about. You could see somebody dominate the first round and then take over. Like the Caceres fight is one that I literally cannot wait until the live market opens. Because if Pineda takes his back, if Pineda gets a takedown, I'm jumping in on Caceres on a live market. I know you're not the betting side of things, but that's the type of play. And writing's on the wall for a fight like that. Whereas, you have a lot of like greasy spots where it's like there's some close fights that Dos Santos, Nurmagomedovs, Arlovsky, like you said, don't even touch that live because Arlovsky will get the nod.
Just bet split decision. I mean, on some of these things, just bet split decisions on all the fights. I mean, it's close enough.
Yeah. All right. Ownership has locked. Everything's locked. We're out of here. Blender's going to win all the money. I'm going to attempt to. If we don't, we certainly hope you grinders do. We'll see you guys next week.